And if I may ask Clerk, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Council Caulfield?
Here?
Council Mercier?
Here.
Council Broderick, or absent? Chairman Doherty? Committeeman Doherty?
Here.
Committeeman Martin? Committeeman Fatacanti?
Here.
Not
You
used
are
to
the
your
chair.
names.
All right. That's
Ms. Fatacanti is the chair. So,
Thank you.
okay. We want to welcome everyone who is in attendance this evening to discuss the safety issues at the Bailey and Daly School. But before I do that, I want to also recognize committee member John Leahy, Jim Leary, Kevin McHugh, and Dr. Carla Brooks-Bear, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant City Manager T.J. McCarthy, Ann Barton from Department of Planning and Development, Steve Curran, Chief City Engineer, and Commissioner of Public Works, Ed Walsh. Have I missed anyone? And Jay Lang, I'm sorry, Jay Lang. The issue before us is to address sidewalks on Westchester Street, Campbell Drive, I believe on the Daly School side, the Fleming Street, Lincoln Parkway, Florence Road, etc. We have many people who are going to come to the microphone and explain the process. And after we do that, Regina and I are going to urge you who are in attendance to come down to the microphone and also give us some suggestions and give us some comments as well. But before we do that, I'd like to recognize John Dakota, who has done an excellent job with the transportation program in the Lowell Public Schools. John, you have done a remarkable job, and we're proud of the effort you have put forward. And John would like to address everyone before we even get into any speakers. John?
Thank you, Councilor. Members of the Joint Subcommittee. Prior to the meeting, I passed out some information that I'd briefly like to go over, and we can then discuss. First piece of information is a memorandum from November of last year from Matt Coggins to City Manager John Cox concerning a study performed by then Transportation Engineer Mario Madrid and Assistant Transportation Planner Julie Winzio. Just a few of the highlights from the study as it pertains to the Bailey School. As you can see, a total of 487 elementary students attend the school, 270 students are transported by bus, and 217 students ride with parents or walk home. Local streets such as Westchester Street and Campbell Drive do not have the capacity to handle all the traffic generated during admission and dismissal times. Vehicles parked on both sides of the street make it unsafe for cars to get by in both directions. The lack of sidewalks on these streets, especially during the winter season, increases the conflict between pedestrians and traffic. And unfortunately, the public right-of-way is limited, making it impossible to increase the capacity of the local streets. A few of the recommendations made by Mr. Madrid in the study was to construct sidewalks along one side of Westchester Street from Campbell Drive to Stevens Street and Campbell Drive from Westchester Street to Lincoln Parkway. Also, contacting the Lowell Police Department for more police presence. The other recommendations, stagger students at admission and dismissal times, as well as increase the number of buses we believe are not feasible at this time. The next school was the Daly School that was studied. A total of 820 middle school students at the Daly. 280 students are transported by bus, and 540, or 66%, students ride with parents and or walk to their homes. Local streets such as Florence, Van Greenby Road, Campbell Drive, and Fleming Streets do not have the capacity to handle all the traffic generated during admission and dismissal times. Also, the lack of sidewalks on these streets during the winter season increased the conflict between pedestrians and traffic. Recommendation, as similar to the Bailey, construct sidewalks along one side of Fleming Street from Florence Road to Stevens Street and Van Greenby Road from Fleming Street to Lincoln Parkway. Counselor, we can discuss maybe after I go through the rest of the information. What I'll probably do is just go through the rest of this information. We can discuss the memo. Is that good with the body?
Okay.
Okay.
But if anything you'd like, John?
Appreciate it. Next piece of information is a memo from Rich Perry. Rich is the principal at the Bailey School. He apologizes for not being here tonight. He had other school obligations, but wanted to address his support for the safety concerns at the Bailey. But Rich also supplied us, as the subcommittee will note, some photographs taken of the Bailey School at dismissal time. I will point out snapshots 2 and 3. These are, if you are leaving the Bailey School and taking a left, this is Campbell Drive. As you can see from the photographs, both sides of the streets with cars. There's a car in the middle with pedestrians. And if you notice on the left-hand side on both photographs, there's parents and students walking. Those are not sidewalks, those are people's personal properties. Going to the last picture to note, this is the Bailey Street, this is Westchester straight ahead. Once again, both sides of the, with traffic congestion and a school bus that cannot get by. Also to note, you can see the 4 pedestrians walking on somebody's personal property. So I appreciate Mr. Perry's input. Once again, he apologizes for not being here. The last piece of information actually just got to my desk yesterday, and I'd like to thank School Committee Woman Doherty for this information. And a brief history on it is, in August of last year, President Bush signed into law a new transportation bill. And part of the transportation bill was a program called Safe Routes to School. This program is a $612 million program spanned over 5 federal fiscal years, starting with last year to 2009. The program provides funds to the states to substantially improve the ability of primary and middle school students to walk and bicycle to school safely. The program establishes 2 distinct types of funding opportunities. 1, infrastructure projects, i.e. sidewalks, and non-infrastructure related activities such as education, enforcement, and encouragement programs. As you can see on the 3rd page of this information, the state of Massachusetts for this 2006 fiscal year we appropriated $1.8 million. Through a few phone calls through Washington and then finally to Boston, I finally got in touch with the school coordinator for the state of Massachusetts, Ms. Davida Eisenberg. We had a lengthy discussion, and she is planning a trip to Lowell in the next few weeks. I will ask both the joint subcommittee to join once I have a date firmed. But she was quite interested and quite excited, and Lowell is the only urban community that will be putting in for these funds at this point. The rest of the communities are suburban settings. So I would stress to the subcommittee that these are supplemental monies. The city would still have to infuse some money. At this point, like I said, with the Massachusetts program, the objectives are to increase physical activity, increase safety, but as well as decrease traffic congestion and decrease air pollution. So this program is something that we're pretty excited about, and we're going to really pursue these monies. With that being said, if I could have the committee acknowledge a few people. I know there's quite a few people that do want to talk, but if I could have Mr. Liam Skinner approach the podium. Mr. Skinner has been the principal at the Daily School for the last 8 years and obviously has firsthand knowledge of what's going on. And right after Mr. Skinner, I'd like to have Ann Barton say a few words. We met with Ann this morning and came up with maybe a few ideas on what to do in the short term, and then we can progress from there. So, Mr. Skinner.
Thank you very much. And I am very thankful for the hearing that this problem is receiving this evening. I'm very thankful for the civic-mindedness of our elected representatives at this time. It's been a problem that's been on the agenda for the Daily School and Bailey School for many, many years. And I think the particular group of elected officials that we have interested is important and in having it be addressed right now. It also, I think, is important to acknowledge John Dakota's work because it's been his persistence and his skill in communicating with various city officials and elected officials that I think has also brought us to this point. We're very hopeful, but I'd like, if I could, to draw somewhat of a little bit of a picture and context for us. The Daly and Bailey schools are very nicely located and situated in quiet neighborhoods, and there are advantages to that. But if you picture it, they're surrounded by very narrow neighborhood streets. And the Bailey School, on behalf of my colleague, Principal Rich Perry, is on what is essentially a dead end. The street ends at the Bailey School. There's no throughway. The Daly School is not quite on a dead end, but there really isn't a throughway either. Our school, the Daly, is the largest middle school in the city. John quoted recent figures of 820 students. The problem has to do in part with the geography of the situation, and I don't suppose we're going to entertain the idea of relocating the schools tonight. So I'd like us to think about, first of all, the gravity of the situation, and then a series of possible measures to improve it. Considering, if you will, please, a narrow neighborhood street like Fleming Street, many of you may be familiar with it, with no regulations and no system in place for traffic flow, and with many students who walk, in the morning time, from my vantage point at the top of the Daly School driveway, I see every day cars and buses and walking students competing with each other for space along Fleming Street. And whatever about the danger for the cars and the buses, I don't want kids walking, competing with these buses and cars. Although the streets may be very well plowed in the wintertime, we all know that when the snow is plowed to the sides, the streets are in fact even narrower. And they're more dangerous because of wintertime conditions. Then we have cars and buses competing with each other, both sides of the street, and walking students with no sidewalks or other means to keep off the street. It is a very dangerous predicament. In the afternoon, when we have dismissal time, we have approximately 250 students bused. We can safely get them on their buses and away from the school. But we can't help the fact that there are now over 500 students who walk from the school at dismissal time. They exit onto these narrow neighborhood streets. There are no other, sometimes people have complained about the fact that the kids are walking down the middle of the street. But it's very difficult for them not to when there are so many of them, and when there are cars parked on the side, and when there aren't sidewalks. The problem has been exacerbated in recent years because due to budget cuts, the distance to qualify for bus transportation to school is 1.75 miles, 1.75 miles. Many, many more students now have become walkers who used to ride buses. We estimate about 100 more students are out on the streets in the afternoon walking than used to be the case. Because they are the students who are coming from the furthest distance, they're the ones whose parents are more likely to want to come and pick them up after school. So we get many, many more cars jamming those neighborhood streets, parked on people's lawns, or otherwise at each side of the street, waiting for their child to come out. As far away from the school, leading as far away from the school as 1.5 blocks or 2 blocks in many directions. Unfortunately, when students are walked by, and when some parents meet their children and get them into their cars, they want nothing else but to take off and to zip through those narrow streets to still have many more walking students on them. It's a miracle that we haven't had a disaster, a tragedy. I'm very, very hopeful that this cooperation between school committee folks and city officials will help us to see some action. I'm familiar with the recommendations in the city report that's in front of us. One concern I have is that while some of the recommendations I think are very good, the situation is such I think any one recommendation that's followed, or even two, will be helpful. Any of them followed will be helpful, but that I think it's going to require more than one or two simple measures to really make the place a lot safer than it is at the moment. From the simplest measures like signage, possibly no parking signs, I think would be a relatively simple measure to put in place, to other ones like sidewalks. Sidewalks would be very helpful in some respects, would certainly help those kids in the wintertime to keep away from the buses and the cars that are on the street. With many, many students exiting at the same time at the end of the day, we couldn't guarantee that they'd all be on a sidewalk at the end of the day. So it would be helpful, but it wouldn't be a complete solution. I believe, it's my opinion, that a one-way system or a loop that would at least reduce traffic on the street to one lane or to one direction would also be very helpful. It would obviously be very helpful to reinstate more buses. If students were bused who were a mile from the daily school, many of the students who are now walking out to meet their parents in cars would no longer be walkers. They'd be on the buses and would be out of the area safely. I think a combination of the measures is called for, and I worry that the committee will feel satisfied that they've made progress by enacting any one of them. And I really do believe it's going to require more than any one measure. It'll require several. Two comments in closing, if I may. Seeing is believing. You need to get out on Fleming Street at the end of the school day, or Westchester if you're a Bailey School representative, and see this for yourselves. It's a very frightening prospect to look at and to see. And finally, I just urge us to all put our heads together to come up with some solutions before we have a tragedy. And I know that there are probably various people here, including my colleague Rich Perry, who is not present tonight, who has witnessed the tragedy of a student being killed at a former school in Boston, a 6th grade student who died in his arms, being struck by traffic. We are very fortunate, and it's a miraculous case that we've not had to endure students being injured by traffic, and I urge us to come to a solution before that happens. Thank you.
Mr. Skinner, your comments were right on target. And I agree with you, and I hope my colleagues agree, and we'll discuss this with Ann Barton and the City Council, that there has to be signs installed. No parking on this side of the street, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. during school hours. Because a picture is worth 1,000 words. I've been there, I've seen it, and this is in good weather. It's an absolute mass of confusion in the winter with snow. And I've seen youngsters dart in front of a car, and parents just park their car just to pick up their youngsters. There has to be some control. We can install sidewalks, but that's not going to control this problem with the narrow streets. And I agree wholeheartedly with you. John, did you have some?
Actually, if we could have Ann Barton say a few words, I'm sure she has some words of wisdom here.
Sure. I had an opportunity to consult with and work with Mario Madrid, our transportation engineer, in the fall when he prepared this report with various recommendations, and had an opportunity further to meet with John at the site and one of the principals to take a look at things. I think the speaker is correct that multiple solutions are probably necessary. One of the items that we weren't aware of until recently was the potential for transportation funds. I think that's good news because certainly the status of some of these streets, some additional infusion of funds could be helpful. I think in the interim as well, there are some short-term measures since some of these major infrastructure improvements are a longer-term solution, and that would be looking at one-way options or pairs that are restricted to the school hours that we use in other locations throughout the city. If we can gain a general consensus from the neighborhood that would work, along with parking restrictions. Neither of the schools are signed for school zones, the 20-mile-an-hour school zone signs that you typically see. We can move on installing those relatively quickly and without any critical actions occurring before that. So I think looking at the transportation funds available will be critical. I'm glad to hear that there's an educational component to that because I think the driver's behavior and the parents' understanding of what goes on around the school during that time and how traffic does impact the students that are walking would be very important and very helpful. So I think there are some short-term measures we can take and also look at the longer-term potential for improvements.
The chair likes to recognize my colleague, Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Madam Chairwoman. I would like to ask Ann Barton, in regards to the Bailey School, it talked about parking restrictions were posted on Westchester Street east of Campbell Drive last year, and traffic safety was improved. What parking restrictions were we talking about at that time? According to the first page under the Bailey School.
Honestly, Council, I'm not familiar with the restrictions. It appears that they did restrict some parking there, which would have prevented, obviously, parking and made it more accessible to vehicles in both directions. Maybe John is familiar with that when it was implemented?
Actually, and I believe Council Caulfield can help us, I believe there were actually some signs put up last year on that side, but
Right.
Actually, I think I could answer that, Chair, if you, they are restricting parking to only one side of Westchester Street now during school hours. And I think it has helped because you don't have cars on both sides.
But no one enforces it. That's the problem. And we have to enforce, we're going to install no parking signs, has to be enforced, has to be.
And as we're talking about that, we should continue doing that, and we should continue enforcing it, and we should move it along to other streets, because it seems, however, extending this restriction only became exacerbated further down in other areas and other streets, like 2 blocks away. It created the same problem. So maybe we should extend this restriction in a particular area. And these are things that on a temporary basis we could do, because in the shot of it, it's about the safety of our children, and we know that ultimately we do need sidewalks. We do need them to be safe. And something that sticks in my mind like a nightmare every time I think about it is some time ago, a parent drove up to one of the sides, one of the streets, and the child opened the door to get out to go walking to the school, and there was rocks all along, and the child kind of didn't see it and got out of the car and twisted her ankle. I mean, how painful is that? I mean, I never forgot that, and I know it would require a lot. I know that there's a lot to it if you're going to take some sort of measure to...
Right, some eminent domain issues.
Right. You're encroaching onto the right-of-way. You got walks and retaining walls and lawns that have to be moved back and properly lined to construct the sidewalks. I know there's a lot to it. Then we know that in particular Westchester Street, that's very important. For example, a portion of that street we believe is accepted. It's an accepted street from Stevens to Fairfield, but a portion of Fairfield to Campbell Drive, we might think that that could be not an accepted street. However, we're not quite sure of that. If it is falling under as not being an accepted street, Chapter 90 funding can only be used for city streets that are accepted. So there's some issues here that we have to, what is the cost of it? I know there's no value that should be a factor when we're talking about a child's life. But these are issues that we have to talk about, but I think it's important that we move quickly and do things, signage, no parking. In the meantime, the loop is a good thing. They talked about the Riley School and how we had congestion there. I know it's wide open, but if we could set up a pattern of this way, like a loop or whatever, these things work. These things work. And I don't know at the Bailey School if we're using the portion of the land to the side where the fields are, where we had that dedication through your motion, Mr. Chairman. Remember last
That's
summer?
behind the Daily School.
That's right, but it abuts the Bailey, doesn't it, though? Does it abut the Bailey somehow? Could we move things over to that direction and loop things? I don't know.
Not unless you put the Highland Little League out of business. I don't
Well,
want to do that.
I don't want to do that, but there's got to be a loop system somewhere. I know. We're all putting our heads
Right.
together trying to come up with a solution.
I think part of what needs to happen is that I think maybe Ann Barton needs to work with John Dakota in going down there and looking at some traffic patterns. I have two comments. One, I agree that we need to make some of the streets one-way during school times, but parking on one side during school hours. But the other issue is enforcement, and unless we have Lowell Police Department working with the school department to enforce the rules and regulations, people are going to feel like they don't have to obey them, and that's the reality. Especially if I park there Tuesday and no one caught me, I'm going to park there Wednesday and no one's going to catch me. And I think people have to recognize that law enforcement will work in conjunction with the school department. The other thing I want to address to Mr. Skinner, and that is on your recommendations. You have an excellent recommendation here. It's bullet point number 3. It says parents could drop off their children at the back parking lot via the Florence Road and leave Fleming Street in the eastbound direction. Is there, what technically would you need from these two subcommittees to make that happen?
An important
Signage, obviously.
an important matter. They're not my recommendations. I believe that you're referring to a report by a city council group.
So tell me what you would need to have happen up there to make this happen. Is this a recommendation that you think is acceptable?
You're talking about recommendation of using the back parking lot?
Yes. Parents
No,
could drop their children off at the back parking lot via Florence Road and leave Fleming Street in an eastbound direction. Is this possible and doable?
No.
Okay.
It's not possible simply because, as one parent asked in a recent parent survey, they asked us for a parking lot. There's no parking in and around the daily school other than street parking or the back recess yard, and that's where teachers park. There's not enough room for all the teachers, actually. But that lot is filled with teacher cars. And as well, if parents picked up or dropped off students there, they'd be fighting walkers on their way into school or on their way out of school. It's not viable.
Okay. Thank you very much. My colleagues, Ms. Doherty, Ms. Martin?
Thank you. Actually, I have a question. I wonder if the city traffic, I'm not sure your time, Ms. Barton could answer. When we look at the issue of one-way streets, where there doesn't seem to be any costs involved in that, and signage and stuff, and that seems minimal, what is the barrier? What are the obstacles to immediately making some of these streets one-way streets and providing that kind of flow that we were talking about? Thank you.
There really aren't many obstacles to that. It is, typically we would survey the neighborhood to see how the residents feel about that, to get some consensus so that they take part in that process because they will experience some of that inconvenience. And in addition to the input here, it requires an ordinance. It can be done on a trial basis, and John and I discussed doing that so that we could evaluate the effectiveness of that. So that is something that can be done in a matter of weeks. The council would vote a trial order. The work, the signs and the work involved in that could go up 3 to 5 days, and then we could begin evaluating that over a 60-day trial period. If it was successful, we would then make it a permanent ordinance, and it would be in effect.
Thank you. I think the prospect of being able to do something that would have such a dramatic impact with such a short time frame is really very exciting and encouraging. I want to kind of reiterate, and I know it's been said, but the concept of having strong enforcement in place, and I think more than anything, it's so that people just can understand. I think anytime you change a traffic pattern, you change anything about someone's everyday activities, it's reasonable to expect that the onus is going to be on us to ensure that that the instructions are there, that people understand. And I suspect, having seen this sideshow that happens at both these schools, parents are going to recognize the need for it. I think the neighbors, and I certainly would support surveying and having those kinds of conversations. I suspect we have some neighbors here in the chamber who'd like to share their opinions with us. But they are also facing severe safety concerns, and that I suspect that they will be, I hope at least, very supportive of these, especially these immediate actions that can be taken that really could have a profound impact on on the safety of students and on the efficiency of the way we bring students into school and get them back out to home at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion, Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
If we could have the city manager's office in conjunction with DPD to immediately take a survey of Westchester Street, Campbell Drive, Fleming Street, etc., and report back to the council as soon as possible the installation of no parking signs 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. during school hours.
So moved.
So moved?
You just said
Roll
it all.
call.
Excuse me, if we could just amend that motion to earlier, because the daily school starts at 7:20.
Right,
Well,
that's right.
we would,
Well,
I have the list
so
here.
it'd be
and-
7 to,
Well,
Seven-
Seven to 3
7
or
to
something.
We'll
just-
adjust those signs pertaining to this daily school. Okay?
Okay.
Roll call, Madam Clerk? Yes.
Council Mercier?
Yes.
Chairman Fatacanti?
yes.
Committeeman Martin?
Yes.
Committeeman Doherty?
Yes.
Okay. Is
5
everyone
yeas.
happy with that? Okay. Yes.
James Wojcik, 95 Weber Street. I have a student in Bailey High School, Bailey School.
Could you
System.
speak
No.
right into the microphones?
Oh, James Wojcik, 95 Weber Street. I have a student at Bailey School. I believe that by posting no parking signs has to be really heavily considered as the amount of pedestrian traffic that will be extended for a further distance before getting to the school system and the safety of the boundary of the school parking and direction of flow within its property itself. I believe sidewalks are a great alternative as long as the ordinances are followed, clearing to clear the sidewalks during the wintertime, as I clear in front of my house, and the homeowners at the current situation have, in the area, in the vicinity we're speaking of, keep their sidewalks clear. It's a city ordinance. As far as I know, it's never gone away. And there's a privilege to living near schools. You have a little bit higher safety capacity. And just by having a sidewalk on one side, I think would be ample. Looking at minimizing the traffic in front of the wider spread houses, I know there are some houses that are right up, have berms and such, and fences, right up to the property line. However, on the side where the water tower is, I want to say north side, I guess, or east, I don't know which side of the street it is, but the side of where the water tower is down there on the main strip between Daly and Bailey schools, there seems to be more spacing between the houses. There already seems to be a general setback of the fencing from the street for the most properties down there. I believe that the homeowners would suffer least by having more adequate access in and out of their own driveways, and it wouldn't so much put a burden on the general view of the property. It might even dress it up a little bit because of the snow, situation and the parking situation. I see many residents on that main strip. That's the one I go down to drop my child off at in the morning, that can't get out of their own driveways. I don't think you'd find as much of a hassle in a proposal to implement more of a sidewalk situation than signs. I just think the signs, no parking signs, would drag out, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're stating, but would drag out the pedestrian traffic to further regions, thus increasing a higher risk of an incident. Because you would also have the parents walking their children, on the younger children, for that distance, where it would just be a child walking a couple of 100 yards compared to a
I know what you're getting at, but see that picture?
I see it every morning.
You
sir.
have people trying to go left, right, sideways, forward. There's no room for the traffic. And I had a call today from a constituent who lives in the Highlands,
Yes, sir.
and she was infuriated. She tried to get down Campbell Drive this morning. The fire department had to get down Campbell Drive.
Yes,
They
sir.
couldn't.
Right. I believe
And-
a directional flow would also be well in place, a directional flow, but just to have a directional flow would minimize the parking and expedite in and out bursts of traffic. I believe. I've seen it at other places. I just think that by dragging it on, I don't know how efficient that's going to be, and especially the extended cost of having a patrol between the areas that you're going to have a cruiser full-time rolling around there, and how efficient is that going to be if there's an incident on one area? I don't know. You'd have to, I would have to see, I would feel safer with my son being able to walk on a sidewalk, and I think if given the choice, most of the children would be able to walk on a clearer path than in front of traffic.
Okay, thank you. I'll also entertain a motion, Councilor Mercia.
Yes.
If we can put on the agenda for the law department to draw up the proper vote to accept the roadway, it's called Westchester Street, that's not accepted.
Right.
So we can continue, because we cannot install sidewalks unless we own the road.
Right, and I'm sure,
Excuse me?
yeah, there's a,
Campbell Drive is not accepted also?
Campbell Drive?
Campbell
Okay.
Drive.
Any other streets you can think of?
Campbell.
Okay. Amend that motion, and
Yes,
and
to
Campbell
be-
Drive and
and
Westchester Street to put on the agenda
Yes.
so the law department can draw the proper vote,
To
so the council
accept.
can accept those streets.
right. So moved, seconded by the Chairman Fataconti. Roll call.
Yes.
Council Caulfield. Council Mercia.
Yes.
Chairman Fatacanti.
Yes.
Committeewoman Doherty.
Yes.
Committeewoman Martin.
Yes.
5 years.
Now, yes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify something and make sure I understood correctly. When we're looking at restricting parking, we're talking about just one side of the street, right?
That's right.
Okay, because I can understand where our previous speaker was coming from, that we are going to then pull the traffic, the parking all the way further down. But I think if we're looking at, as Mr. Skinner mentioned, a multiple approach, if one thing is parking on one side of the street only, another thing is one-way streets, and hopefully
We're going
soon
to take a survey of the
sidewalks.
one-way streets.
These combination would really provide
Right.
a much safer environment for our
And
kids.
I'll tell you, the person who really needs and deserves a halo is the crossing guard, because thank you. TJ, will you let that crossing guard know that we mentioned it, please? The patience of Job, believe me, wonderful person, and many patience. Before we have public participation, I would like to have you hear from Commissioner Ed Walsh from the DPW, also from Steve Curran, the engineer, and everything, as we all know, costs money. And just a rough estimate for the sidewalk on Westchester Street is about $225,000. Campbell Drive would be even more, and I don't even know what the daily school is going to curtail. But so if you could please bear with us, and who would like to go first, Steve or Ed? Okay. Steve Curran, city engineer.
Good evening. My name is Steve Curran. I'm the city engineer.
Can you hear?
Can you hear?
Okay.
Okay. We just started this week. We've gone out. My crew has gone out to do some survey on Westchester Street. We're picking up all the detail within the street. We're going to pick up the street right-of-way lines, and we're going to. Today I was caught off guard. I wasn't aware that Campbell Drive is going to be added to the mix. So we'll be following through and picking up the survey on all these other streets to determine all the encroachments within the street right-of-way. And then when we take all this information back into the office, we prepare drawings and plans, and then we do estimates on them. And we made some preliminary estimates of for the construction on Westchester Street, which is around, that street it has to be rebuilt, it has to be dropped, and there are encroachments on the north side with retaining walls and walkways. And then on the south side, there are other issues with the south side. There's a jog in the road. So we'll put that all on paper, and we'll see the encroachments, we'll go to the neighborhood and the residents, we'll show them what we're proposing to do, and then we'll, you know, we'll come up with a consensus of what we're going, where we're going to place the sidewalk, and then we'll go after the funds for this job. Okay?
Ed, if you may, please.
Good evening. My name is Ed Walsh. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works, in the City of Lowell. An issue was brought up about clearing the sidewalks. Anywhere that we do have schools and we build sidewalks, we do plow them. So that issue, we could take care of that. And the cost, as was brought up, it's about $80 a lineal foot. So whatever we do. And another issue we have here that probably ought to be considered, and Steve Curran brought up, is to accept all the streets that are on here at one time. Florence Street, accept them all together, and then if we have to have enough money onto this new program, probably we can put sidewalks on the streets if they're all accepted, all that's mentioned here.
Does Florence Street have to be accepted too, Ed?
We don't know, but they should all be accepted. And that way there, if we have to build sidewalks, we'll be able to take care of it.
If we amended the motion and reworded the motion that accept all streets that are affecting the installation of sidewalks
Yeah.
for the Daly and Bailey School, how's that?
That's
Does that cover it, Ann?
fine.
Okay.
Right.
So could we amend that
Yeah,
motion?
motion to
I'll second the
amend.
amendment.
Right.
We need a roll call again.
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Federici?
Yes.
Chairman Doherty?
Yes.
Committeewoman Doherty? Committeewoman Martin?
Still yes, yeah.
5 yeas, thank you.
And John, before we forget, could you give all that information you have, and I applaud you immensely for this, give that information to T.J. McCarthy so the city manager's office can work in conjunction with you and Jay Lang and the superintendent of schools and the school committee, so we can see if we can go after that money?
Absolutely.
That'd be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I was just speaking to Chairman Regina Fatacanti, and what we'd like to do at the next meeting, we're not finished with this one yet, but what we'd like to do at the next meeting is have the meeting at the Daly School or the Bailey School, and then invite residents of the neighborhood and let them get an input and so forth, and let them be part of the solution as well, okay? Now, I'm in favor of installing the sidewalks. I know my colleagues are, that are here. We're going to have to take those surveys. We're going to have to get estimates, the cost. Will it be done in phases? I don't know. But you can rest assured we're in favor of installing sidewalks to make the streets safer for the children who attend those two schools. The signage will be installed, and we can do that. And that will probably be on the agenda Tuesday evening for the city council. And, you know, the future of any city or town is with its children. They're going to carry on, and we're going to make it safe. I have a grandchild that goes to the Bailey School. It's a wonderful school, and everyone knows my grandson Nicholas, and God forbid if anything ever happened to him, so we're going to make it safe for you and your children, okay? Now, if there's anyone who would like to come to the microphone, I spoke to some people earlier, please keep it within 5 minutes or less. Please come to the microphone, just state your name. This is your building, this is your city hall, this is your meeting. Do not be bashful, and if you don't come to the microphone, don't go out on Merrimack Street and say, I wish I would have said something. Tonight's tonight. If you just keep it 5 minutes or less, and give us your comments and your suggestions.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Joe Reese. I'm on 94 Marshall Avenue. I have a daughter at both the Bailey and the Daly. 2 points that I'd like to raise. For the Bailey School, I'm looking at the recommendations, and I know these were only recommendations, but I'd also like to bring up the point that the recommendation to construct sidewalks goes from Westchester Street to Lincoln Parkway, and it is ignoring the other side of of Campbell Drive. And so it's Campbell Drive from Westchester Street to Lincoln Parkway, which is heading back towards the Daily. I'd just like to raise the issue that we walk the opposite direction down Campbell Drive towards West Forest Street.
Okay.
And that is the other half of the students, probably an equal number, are trying to walk down that way on Campbell Drive also. So just a point there.
Okay.
And the other issue that I'd like to make is that the students at the Bailey and the Daily, because one is a middle school, one is elementary school, that the increased enforcement for the Bailey school is really important. Those children are more likely to dart out when they see their parents waiting for them. They're more likely to cross the road without looking both ways. The Daily is a different population, a little bit older, and have more responsibilities. So if we could just turn an eye towards the Bailey school in terms of the crossing guards, the enforcement, and keep that in the back of our minds, that the students there, being in the K through 4, are a little bit more prone to walking out into the street, to seeing their parents and running out. That would be extremely helpful, I think.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your comments. Someone else? Don't be bashful.
Hi, I'm Kim Davis. I have a son who's in the pre-K at the Bailey. It will be attending kindergarten there next year. I'd like to ask a question, if that's possible. You say that first we need to ask the residents what they feel about making the street a one-way and or also installing sidewalks. What if the residents are against that? Where does that leave us? To my mind, these two things are essential.
If the city takes a poll of a particular street and the majority of the residents on the street are overwhelmingly against the one-way street, then I think we'd have to look at alternatives to this issue.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Right, I understand that. So I will just express my opinion that I think a one-way is absolutely essential. Like I said, my son is in pre-K. He's not yet 5 years old. I walk from the other side of Parker Street in the nice weather. We walk. He walks. I push my daughter in the stroller. There is no place to push a stroller and have a child walk alongside you. We have to walk down the middle of the road on Campbell Drive. And it is terrifying, to tell you the truth. And I've actually heard from members of his class, their parents, that the situation is even worse at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He goes to the morning, so I'm talking about 8 o'clock in the morning. And so for me, I think it is absolutely necessary to have a one-way street and sidewalks to walk on. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
When we have that neighborhood meeting, hopefully Ann Barton and the city administration will have charts, diagrams, pictures, surveys, and so forth. And usually if people are against something, they'll all show up. So if we don't have a big turnout, we're pretty safe. So, yes,
Thank
Councilor.
you. Mr. Chairman, through you to Chief Traffic Engineer Ann Barton, would there be such a thing that you could have parking on one side of a very long street without it being one-way? You still could do that if everybody was opposed to a one-way street, couldn't you?
You could do restrictions
So you still
regardless of
could.
it being one way.
You could still, yes.
And you could also, the restriction we're looking at a restriction that is based upon school opening and closing time. The street I live on has a restriction. And we learn to drive around the other side, and it's not difficult to make that adjustment. And you look at your watch when you're approaching, and you look at your watch when you're exiting, and it just becomes part of your regular pattern. And it's a safety. And the other issue about living on a street like that, it's a safety issue. You don't want to be on the street when there are hundreds of kids running to their parents' cars. So you want to make sure you're more careful, and you want to drive with the flow of traffic. And I think that people who live in the neighborhood, will come, it's an adjustment. It is an adjustment. But I think I'm hoping people in the neighborhood come to recognize that it's an adjustment that's also in their favor. It's a safety issue for people who are driving also. And so I think that when we approach the neighborhood, we need to approach it in that way, that it's also a safety consideration for people who live in that neighborhood, to protect them from any kind of possible interaction with kids who are, especially little ones, who are running to their parents' car when they see mom and dad coming to pick them up. So it's not that big of an intrusion when it happens. It takes a few weeks of getting used to, and it's not that difficult.
The Morey School has that same setup, I believe, on Wilder Street, and you can only get on that street certain times. I think if we do this in a diplomatic way,
right,
people will listen. But if we say, this is what we're going to do, then sometimes they get reactive, and I think if we handle it properly, I think we can get our point across. Yes.
I think it's worthwhile clarifying something. When we spoke about various possible solutions, and I certainly advocate that all possible solutions should be considered because of the magnitude of the problem, it's important, I think, to distinguish too that there are actually two distinct problems in the morning and in the afternoon. Nobody wants to park in the morning time. They want to zip up to the school, drop their child off, and get going. So the signage, the parking, no parking signs, and so on are necessary for the afternoon. But the one-way system, that loop, I think, is more necessary in the morning. And I want to make the clarification again because I think if we can't get all of the various actions we're looking for, we might well say, well, we've done what we can for now, but only fix half the problem. The morning and afternoon times have there are distinct issues with each. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lisa Callery. I live at 45 Marshall Avenue. I have 2 children at the Bailey School right now. There's a couple of things that I just wanted to mention. One of them is parking at the school itself, and you mentioned maybe having the next meeting at the schools, and it will be very interesting to see how everybody reacts to the fact that there is no parking. You can't go there anytime in the morning, in the afternoon, for a school function during the day, and find a parking spot. The teachers are parked in front of parking spaces. They're blocking people in all day because there aren't enough spaces. I don't know the whole field configuration between the 2 schools. I'm not that familiar with it. But I'm wondering if that can be looked at some point to add additional parking, to add more space, possibly get a lot of the teachers' cars out of the way. And maybe there's another way for dropping off and picking up children that doesn't include everybody being up on Campbell Drive and Westchester. The other thing I would like to mention is back during the winter this year, we had a really bad storm. I believe it was on a Friday night. On Monday, the sidewalks leading down into the Bailey School, which are the responsibility of the city from what I'm told, were not cleared. They weren't cleared at all. So the children were in the, I think I ran into you over there that at that time. I called the DPW. I was told, you know what, it was a busy weekend. We had, parks to clear and things like that. I'd just like to say it out loud again. Why would parks be more important than the school systems when you have a weekend to clear them? So that Monday morning when the children arrived at school, there wasn't a nice clear sidewalk. I ran into that same afternoon. The DPW did show up during the day on Monday while the kids were in school. That afternoon I saw a parent out there shoveling ice off of the sidewalks because they weren't cleared well. And the kids were still having to walk in the driveway with the buses and the cars picking up their preschoolers and the teachers leaving. It was just an absolutely unacceptable situation. I think sidewalks are great. If we have them all the way up and down Campbell Drive, it would be perfect. The problem is, will they get cleared?
I remember that, and I did call T.J. McCarthy
Yeah.
to address that.
I think a lot of people did. They weren't real thrilled with my phone
And let me
call.
know that the city removes all the snow on all the sidewalks, 1.5 miles of every school in the city. Is that right, TJ?
All schools.
All schools. So if you look at the big picture, and you have to plow out all the parking lots for
I'm with
every
you.
school and everything in the city, it's a monumental
It
task.
absolutely
really
is.
is.
I am absolutely with you.
And I'm not looking for excuses. We did
Yep.
slip up on that, but
Well, and it was never that a problem. Again, it was just having to see a parent come with his shovels in the afternoon to clear the ice
Right.
off of the sidewalks was just, you know what, something's got to change.
okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to? The members of the school committee, too, feel free to address the committee.
Hi, my name's Dan Gregory, and I live on Rexford Street. We have children in the Bailey and the Daily. By trade, I'm a transportation and safety engineer. So I took the liberty, and I made a copy for you, of a safe route to schools out in Lewis, Maine. They did a very nice study. If I'd had a little bit more warning that this was coming up, I would have done it with the satellite photos that they had in here and the markings. The one-way solution is one of the cheapest and the easiest ways to go. It's done in most of the school systems here in the city. I don't know if the school committee knows exactly which ones are done. The one that comes to my mind is at Bartlett School, because I hate having to drive all the way around when I miss the parking spot. But that seems to work up there in a very crowded neighborhood. We have a nice suburban area in our area, in the Highlands, and I don't know why we don't have sidewalks or flashing school zone signs, or even painted school zone signs like the other school zones in the city. So that might be something else you want to look at, so that people actually know there's schools right there. It is nice that we live in a pretty residential area, but they're not marked. Also, on the subject of sidewalks, they do dress up property, and the people that may be initially opposed to sidewalks, if they look around, they can see where people are no longer going to drive on their property, where they just put new grass, and they'll also have kids walking on the sidewalk instead of on their grass itself.
Sir, if once the city surveys the streets, they're going to probably find out part of that land is on the city.
I didn't want to bring that up, but I found that out on my own property a while ago when I tried to do something. One more point is, we have some streets that are not yet accepted, and I find that puzzling because they're paved. I would think that they'd still be dirt roads, and they're plowed, and I think that's our city tax money doing that. So someone's accepted some along those roads. So that's, thank you.
It's just a legal
It's a
fact.
technicality, so
that
you
A
can
portion
use
of the
chapter
street.
state money.
Okay.
That's all it is.
John, are you interested in this?
It's a legal formality, that's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any members of the school committee like to say?
I think everybody here has covered a lot tonight, and I think we're doing a good job, and I think we've made a lot of progress tonight, so I really don't have anything much to add, but I think especially some of the comments from Mr. Skinner was a good point, that the morning traffic is much different from the afternoon traffic. So as long as we take a look at everything and keep the momentum going with this, I think we'll make some progress this year and hopefully next year with the sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy.
Jim, you all set?
Thank you. I'd like to just, in a closing comment, say...
But we're not closing.
Well, I'm closing. And one thing I want to just add, that I spoke to a parent this morning who told me 12 years ago she was hit by a car while pushing her daughter in a carriage outside the Bailey School area on Campbell Drive. And at that time, there was a push from the parents and the people in the area to try to get sidewalks, to try to get something done. Because what initiated the conversation was my excitement about this meeting tonight, and that I know for 7 years I've been watching the issue over there closely. My child was at the Bailey, now he's at the Daily. And I felt very hopeful that tonight we were going to really make some progress, and we have made some progress. And I guess the point I want to make is I'm not willing to let this just go away. I think we need to continue to move forward. Certainly one-way streets, signs, something that can be done relatively quickly, and that I don't want to see another winter where we have kids competing with buses and cars on both sides, going both ways on the streets. And I understand that surveys have to be done to with residents, and that we want to get the neighborhood involved in part of this process. But my understanding from the parent I spoke with this morning was that that was exactly what killed it the last time, that neighbors didn't want the sidewalks. I don't know if the one-way streets were pursued, but I think we need to stay the course. We're talking about the safety of 1,300 kids every day, and you know yourself, it's a dangerous situation, and I just wanted to say that.
I thought we were addressing the neighborhood tonight. That's where all these people live, so.
I think these are more parents, but to me, there's an urgency to it. I don't want it to, put up a sign here and maybe put up no parking on this side on Campbell and think we've solved it. because it's not that simple. There are really multiple things that need to happen. And if there is some resistance, I think we definitely work to talk with the people that have resistance, try to educate them to the value of it, but we have to move forward on this because it's a very important issue.
I think it'd be a great gesture on this joint subcommittee to go into the neighborhood and invite them to the meeting and let them know the problem and let them be part of the solution. And to exclude them is not right. So, yes.
Ma'am? Hi, my name's Heather Gregory. I live on Rexford Street. I have kids, one child at the Daily and one child at the Bailey. And I don't actually let my kids walk to school because of the traffic. And I live a distance where they could easily walk, and it's not a big deal. I just want to make the other thing about, Mr. Reese said about the sidewalks going from Campbell Drive down to West Forest Street, because all the other things said it was going to go from Westchester up. And there are a lot of children that walk that way, and they go up West Forest and onto Stevens Street. In the Daily School, a lot of children do that also, so they stay off of Stevens Street. So they come down Campbell to West Forest, up West Forest, and then get on Stevens Street and go down. So that is a definite need. The other issue, again, like I know you've heard over and over, is the winter weather. I mean, with people parking on both sides, the children are literally walking down the middle of the street, and you have cars following them down as they walk. I know some of the residents get very angry, and when I do walk to school to get my son, we walk home, he's right on the side of the road, and there are times he's walking right along on their property, and people come out and they yell and they get angry. First of all, I say, portion of that is city property, but I'd rather have my son on the side of the road than in the middle of the road. And the residents are upset. We do get letters home from the school asking us to be mindful of people's personal property, but there's just no way I'm going to have my children walk in the middle of the road. And so maybe, hopefully, the residents can see that this would be a nice
What street
issue.
is that, ma'am?
Campbell Drive.
Okay, Campbell. Is there anyone in the balcony? You all finished?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anyone in the balcony that has a question? You can just talk a little louder. We'll hear you. No? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Malone. I'm here in two capacities, I guess. One as just a recently retired principal from the City Magnet School, and I had to daily deal with dismissing 350 kindergarten through 8th grade children onto French, Page, and John Street in downtown Lowell. So I can certainly identify with the feelings that people have concerning the safety for children. I also come as a resident of 196 Campbell Drive. I did receive the notice in the door today and appreciated that. And one concern I have is the direction of the one-way street. In the case of Westchester, if it's incoming in the morning, that's great. However, the buses, when they leave the Bailey School property, are going to have to contend with taking a left or a right onto Campbell. And since I've been retired, I've had the misfortune of timing my dog's walk during that time. And I unfortunately have run into some of the chaos there. And I've also seen how difficult it would be for a bus to make a left or a right on Campbell Drive with parking on both sides of Campbell Drive.
Right.
So the combination of ideas is important. And also the other thing is I think I'd love to see the work that Mr. Walsh would be doing on delineating what exactly would be my personal property and what belongs to the city of Lowell. Because to be honest with you, I'd gladly give back the property that belongs to the city of Lowell that I've been trying to grow grass on and I'd love to have a sidewalk there instead. I've given up growing grass and I've just put mulch down. I think a lot of the residents in that area do not know how far their property goes and how much actually would belong to an easement for a sidewalk. So I think, they may have the same feelings I do. I know there are some other folks that have been very frustrated with trying to grow grass because the DPW has done a great job at clearing Campbell Drive and putting sand and salt down. And the sand and salt goes 2 or 3 feet into our property anyway, so you can't grow anything.
What number do you live at Campbell?
196.
Eddie, we do
So
have
that'll be
that
the
number down
first
at
sidewalk we
196.
take. Just for you, Tom. Just for you, as a retirement benefit.
And in fact, if you have some extra green paint, you can just paint the rest of the lawn also.
Okay. Listen, we'll go to, I'll set you all
Yes,
set.
but I do wanted to mention that, some of the other residents in that area, once they realize it could be a win-win situation for them, they'll have less property to take care of.
Right.
It may be benefit.
I think that's how it needs to be presented, and I hear my colleague, Councillor Caulfield, saying the same thing. I think it all depends on how it gets presented to the people in the neighborhood. And as you indicate, this could very well be a win-win, because now I'm not looking at a ugly patch of brown dirt that I can no longer grow grass on. I'm looking at a very nice sidewalk that actually increases the value of my property, makes my property look better. So I think it's how it's presented to the neighbors is going to be a big clue. And we'll put the sidewalk on your property first so that everybody can see how nice it looks. And go down to Tom's house, check it out, and thank you.
Thank you.
We will go to 8:30, and before we recess, Dr. Carla Brooks-Bear, would you like any comments? Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to offer some comments?
This lady over here.
Here you go.
Hi, Peter Crouchin, 211 Camel Drive. I live across the street from Tommy. Just to bring up a
We'll
point.
give you a sidewalk too, Mr. Crouch.
No.
Don't worry about it.
I don't want one. But enough of that. Just to make a point about the person that you talked to 10 or 12 years ago. I don't think they ever did anything to notify anybody in the neighborhood about doing anything, putting up sidewalks, any safety stuff. I've lived there since 1985. Best of my recollection, they never did anything notifying the neighbors, anybody on that strip of Camel Drive, about anything that happened or the potential of doing anything like this. So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone
Sir,
else?
there's this gentleman up in the balcony.
We'll get you. Where?
Westchester?
What's that?
The notification was Westchester, not Campbell Drive. Thank you.
I didn't get your comment. What'd you say?
The gentleman was saying that there was no request for the residents of Campbell Drive 12 years ago to be in discussion about sidewalks. I believe 12 years ago the comments were made for only Westchester.
I don't know. But that's irrelevant. It doesn't.
I'm just on the other end of Camel Drive, and we were never.
Yes.
I'll be quick. My name is Claire
You don't have to be
Reese.
quick. Take your time.
I live at 94 Marshall Ave. I also have a daughter at the Bailey and the Daily, and I also teach at the Daily, so I've seen it all. Last year, we had a crossing guard at the Daily at the corner of Fleming and Campbell, and it was a little bit of an inconvenience at first because I had to go all the way around, and now that I'm in the habit of it, even though there's no crossing guard there, I don't know what happened, but this winter we didn't have one, but last year I do think she made a difference. I also think that the one outside the Bailey does not get paid enough, and the 2 times that I went down, I thought there was a problem at the school because I pulled right in and there was nothing going on, but there was a cruiser at the end. And I do think a police presence does make a huge difference. I also don't let my daughter walk home. I do let my daily school walk home. She has to stay right to the side of the road, and I worry about her for the 3 minutes it takes for her to get home. I'm not pushing for sidewalks, but one-way, parking on one way so the kids could walk on the other side of the road is what I would look for. Thank you.
Thank you.
see you washing your child up this Campbell Drive.
My name's Chris McInnes. I live at 110 Kimball Drive. I live in between the Bailey School and Fleming Street, so I get the traffic and the students from both sides.
Just speak up to the microphone, just,
Sure.
that's it.
I have my driveway blocked with cars. I have cars turning around in my driveway. I have the kids on the lawn. I just want a solution. You know, I've been, this is my 10th year as a parent at the Bailey School. I've never allowed my children to walk from my house down to the school. It's just very dangerous. So I am in support of all these motions, just anything that will make it safer.
Okay.
That's
Thank
all.
you.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Victoria Gerke. I have 2 kids at the Bailey School, and I just wanted to reinforce what has actually already been said. I live on 34 McKinley Ave, which is right off Stevens Street. But my 4th grader walks home down Campbell Drive, up Westchester? To the right, coming out of the Bailey to the right. He has had problems because during the winter, he has to walk basically down the middle of the street because the cars are parked on both sides. He's been followed, beeped at, yelled at. When he has had the occasion to walk on the side on somebody's lawn, he's had people come out and yell at him to get off their lawn and into the street. And all of these motions, I think, are wonderful. I think something needs to be done. There is a child that's going to get hurt. And I applaud all of the motions tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rita Mercier and I filed a motion pertaining to this issue because John Dakota called us, and it was filed October 3rd of 2005, and we're acting on it this evening with a joint subcommittee. And you can rest assured we will address this issue. We will address this issue. Yes.
Hi, my name is Michelle Manso, and I live at 52 Wilder. I have 3 kids at the Bailey School, and I drive them. And I do agree with the principal from the Daily School that in the morning I think it's a bit different because people are trying to just drop their children off and go to work. The school does have a circular driveway, and we are not allowed to drive down that driveway because of the buses. Is there a way, until these sidewalks get done, that we can have a drop-off where the children just get out of the right side of the car and go right into the school? There is a crossing guard that is at the top of the hill, and there are also, I believe it's the assistant principal is down at the bottom of the hill at that crosswalk to make sure that the walkers going down the stairs can get in. But can we have some kind of a motion that we drive in a circle and just drop the children off, especially in the morning?
I'll let Ann Barton, our city engineer, address that, but I don't think it'd be feasible.
I actually am looking over at Mr. Dakota, and he's telling me that that might not be possible. Could you explain?
With the number of buses that we have, and especially the special needs vehicles that we have, the amount of time that it takes for the special needs students to get out with the reds on, you'd be back in traffic all the way back up the hill. It just isn't feasible at this time.
Even if we do a staggered time?
That would be a school committee decision, but...
Well, how about this? We'll take a look
just
at it.
something until everything that you do want to get done is done. In the meantime, we still have all the problems.
But you could take a bad situation and make it even worse. And I can visualize parents coming around that driveway with a bus trying to get, it would be a nightmare.
But
It really would.
how about if we do this? How about if I ask Mr. Dakota to go up there and look at it? And then report back to at least the school committee, subcommittee on transportation, so that we could indicate what we saw, and then we'll bring it back to this full safety subcommittee. How about if we do that?
That's fine.
So I would entertain a motion from my colleague, Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms.
Thank you.
Doherty, that Mr. Dakota take a look at the driving pattern and see if that parents are able to utilize that circular driveway.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes, this is the...
I think he's cautious.
We have a motion here.
What's that?
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Chairman Fatacanti?
Yes.
Committeewoman Jackie Doherty?
Yes.
Committeewoman Martin? 5 years.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sharon Hatch. I live on Robin Street. I have a preschooler at the Bailey and a first grader at the Bailey. I drive up to a certain point on Campbell Drive and I park, and then I walk my children down there. Too little to walk from wherever I park down there. I have to make sure that they get down there safely. There's two things that I was concerned about. Somebody had suggested having a staggered time to have some children dismissed or going to school earlier than others at the Bailey School. I think it would be difficult for parents that have a fourth grader and a preschooler. That's one thing that I was concerned about. The second thing I wanted to comment on, something that you were talking about, the neighbors. Some of the neighbors in the Campbell Drive area have made it very clear that they don't want anybody on their property. And I'm one parent whose child has gotten hurt, getting out of the car and stepping onto a large boulder right on the side of the street. And I mean, I think until the sidewalks get put in there, I'm just wondering if there's anything we could do to make it a little safer for those children who are walking along the side of the road, that they're
If the city takes a survey and finds that those boulders are on city land, we'll remove them. They're not, they're not put there in a legal fashion.
Yeah. No, I went to the Daly School before the Bailey School was even built, and there was a problem then with traffic, nothing like it is to now because of the Bailey School there. What I'm concerned about is, I totally lost my train of thought. I think what I wanted to just talk about was the need for the sidewalks, and just we are so lucky that no child has gotten hurt, seriously hurt in this, and I just really want to stress that I think maybe when the Bailey School was built, there were no sidewalks, and what were we thinking when no sidewalks were put in there? And I think it did have a lot to do with the neighbors, or some of the neighbors, not all of them, but I just think it's very clear that some neighbors are against it by the boulders and the obstacles that they put in the path. So, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
That will be the last speaker for this evening, and I just want to just run through what we've done so far. On the agenda, there will be a law, the law department will drop the proper vote to accept all streets in the Bailey Daily District for the installation of sidewalks. That'll be on the agenda. And also, Ann Barton is going to take a survey of the Bailey Daily School District with the installation of signs, no parking, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Bailey School, and I believe at the Daily School, it's
7 to 3.
7 to 3 at the Daily School. So, would that have to be in the form of a motion, Ann, or we just go ahead and put it on the agenda? Okay. Thank you very much.
Before we
Yes.
adjourn, this gentleman.
Hello. I'm going to sound like a broken record, I'm sure, but my name is David Courtney, and I live at 13 Puffer Street. And I have a son that goes to the Bailey School. And I have to truck my little girl down, and every day we we walk down. And it's really hard to, like everyone else has said, to get to the pickup, to pick him up, because there is no sidewalks. And it's either we walk on the street and we fight with either the buses or everybody coming and going, or we dodge the boulders or the rocks or the dog feces and stuff that's always there. Somebody mentioned once that maybe some of the traffic is a little heavier because I think it's Stevens Street up at the top there with the Margaret School. The traffic up there gets really congested, and I think a lot of the people, from what I've been told, will divert their route and go by that way of the school route to try and get around. So I don't know if
They must realize by now that's not a wise move.
I know, but this is what I've been told. So I don't know if, I'm sure it's not during school time, but and then the other thing was some of the homeowners will put rocks and crushed stone on the side. And in the wintertime, when you're trying to get out of your spot, it'll kick up rocks and stuff. And that's about it.
My grandson and I have tripped over those rocks, so
Yeah.
I know who they are.
It's not a fun time.
Is there anyone else who'd
Thank
like
you.
to?
Can I make one more comment?
Yeah.
Who's laughing at me? First of all, the door that the children come out of at the Bailey School when they are dismissed, the walkers, there is not a sidewalk from that door. There's not a direct sidewalk from that door up to the top of Campbell Drive. You have to cut through the side parking lot where the loading dock would be and over by the ball field. There is not a direct sidewalk from that door up to the top of the street. They have to walk through cars. Buses are coming down. You know, they can choose to walk right through a bus, cut up the hill if they want to. There is nobody supervising them. Once that door is open, they're on their own. The other question I have is there a way to alleviate some of the traffic on Campbell Drive by maybe after the buses come down, cars can come down? Can you hold the kids an extra 5 minutes? I mean, the problem is that the parents don't feel safe letting their kids walk out that back door to get up to Campbell Drive. So they have to park and walk down to get them. I don't feel comfortable myself. So I think that's where a lot of the parked cars come from. You know, we have more supervision for the kids in the morning. We have someone at that first stop sign helping the kids cross. There isn't anybody at the top of that hill in the afternoon other than the crossing guard. She's all on her own. But I think all those parked cars on Campbell Drive is because there is not a safe, you know, we don't have anything in place to get them from that side back door up to the hill. There isn't, you know, like I said, that door opens, they're on their own. And, you know, I'm not comfortable with it. That's a parking lot we're going through. There's buses coming down. So I don't know if that's something we can work with Mr. Perry on, or, you know.
I know the school very well.
Yeah.
You come out that back door.
Yeah.
You walk out, and you're directly onto a sidewalk. You can walk right up.
No, you've got to come through the parking lot first. You've got to come through the side parking lot. If you can picture where the concession stand is.
Can somebody help me here from the school department?
Where the dumpsters are. There's not a sidewalk. There, you know, there's a paved area right where the door is.
Right.
Okay? To get to the sidewalk where the ball field is, you've got to cut through the parking lot, and that's where the walkers go up the hill. Do you know what I'm saying?
With the parking lot for the school employees you're talking about?
Well, yeah.
Down
Parents
below.
aren't allowed down. See, that's where the congestion is on the street. Cars are not allowed to drive down, so they have to park. But is there a way that, you know...
Can you imagine if all the cars were allowed to drive down? There'd be a total confusion.
But I mean, that's why they're on the street, because they can't. But I'm saying to you is I think the reason there's so many parked cars that the people, that, you know, the parents are walking down is because it's not safe even where there is partial sidewalk. Like I said, you have, where that door is, they're being dismissed. There is not a direct sidewalk. Just like the side where the playground is, the sidewalk ends. Okay. They've got to cross the street to, you know, they've got to cross over. That sidewalk doesn't go all the way over either.
We'll include that with our overall survey, all right?
This gentleman?
Yes.
Bob Fitton, I live at 212 Campbell Drive. I also have a daughter that goes to the Bailey School. We have 4 houses from the entrance to the Bailey School, and I can't watch her from my front stair. I have to walk her down there because she can't be seen in between the cars. I'm all for the one-way. I'm definitely for the signage. I just want you to be aware that when you do put that signage up, you're going to affect different neighborhoods. You're going to go out onto West Forest. You're going to go over to Marshall Ave. You're going to go the other way as well. Fairfield, with my, you know, that sort of thing. Enforcement, major issue. People are parking in driveways. They're doing U-turns where there's no room to do U-turns. As for the boulders, those are put there because people were doing 3-point turns, putting their full hood onto people's lawns. I mean, they're doing turns in driveways and they're going over the lawn, not just the corner. They're putting their whole front end on people's lawns. So I could see why people are trying to defend their property a little bit. It's gotten way out of hand. People pull up into the intersection, drop the kids right there, and then take off. You know, crossing guards do their best to stop it. They're ignored a lot of the time. They get no respect. You definitely need police presence down there. You know, that the enforcement's gonna be the main part. You can put up all the signs you want, but people don't listen. The ones that were put up in Westchester Street, 2 houses up, Shannon is forever fighting those people to not park there. She has to yell at 2, 3 people a day, and some of them look at her, they're yelling, she's yelling at them. They just keep walking and leave the car there and go get their kid. So, I mean, you've been there. And he's done a great job when he's there and when the policemen are there, but they just don't give the crossing guards any respect at all, and they don't listen to them.
It's not going to be an easy solution, but we have to address it, and we will come up with something that's viable for the safety of the children. That's as much as I can say.
No,
And
I know. I just wanted to let you know, I mean, there was more than what was being said as far as the enforcement portion of it. There's, you know, ticketed, you know, offenses going on. You can definitely ticket people for the stuff they're doing, you know. So.
In closing, I want to thank Regina Fatacanti, Jackie Doherty, Connie Martin, my colleague on the City Council, Rita Mercier, John Dakota, members of the school committee, Dr. Carla Brooks-Bear, T.J. McCarthy, Steve Curran, Ed Walsh, and Ann Barton, and Jay Lang. I'm sorry, Jay. And especially you, the parents who came down here tonight to stand up for your children. And I just want to say one thing, and don't take it as being a facetious comment, but we have the budgets in June. The budgets run $265 million, $270 million, and we have probably 4 or 5 people here. And you have a testimony to your children for being here to address this serious issue. I wish more people would show up when we deliberate the budget. So we will be in touch with you when we have something in concrete as far as the financing of this project, where the money's going to come from. John, your involvement is welcome immensely. And I want to thank you once again, my colleagues. Thank you for being here. And we have taken the first step to address the safety issues at the Bailey and the Daly School. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to recess.
Recess. Motion to recess. Thank you very much.